Today, we're very pleased to have Rez Camus from our partner Creospark, and he'll be doing a demo of Power Automate and Teams for an end-to-end solution and a live example of that. So we're very happy to have Rez with us. Today, we're going to be looking at a live solution of an M365 Teams using Power Automate. So let me tell you a little bit about Helix just before we get going. We're a Microsoft Gold partner. We are a charter member of the Microsoft Content Services Partner Program, as is Creospark. Both companies are part of the launch program for Project Cortex and SharePoint Syntax. So for those people that have explored that a little bit, feel free to reach out to us. We're in a unique position to be able to help you along that journey. With Helix, we provide services in the entire Microsoft stack, M365, Teams, SharePoint Online, Yammer, Project Cortex, as I mentioned. For those of you that need help with information architecture, we have a designated web-based product that is designed specifically to help with your information architecture, doing mind map sort of things. We have a records management product called Themis RM, and then Genesis AI is our product that is a companion product to Project Cortex for auto classification and rot analysis, which is redundant, obsolete, and transitory information. So, for instance, we don't want to move duplicate files over to SharePoint from file shares and so forth. So we want to be able to identify those, do file analysis, and then just move over the important content. So that's quickly, in a nutshell, about Helix. And now I shall turn it over to Rez, who's a Microsoft MVP. Rez, over to you, sir.
My name is Rez Camus. I'm VP Technology at two companies, a services company called Creospark and a products company called Cloudspark. There's my contact information if anybody wants to contact me for some information on what's being presented here. After this session, I'm also on Twitter, my email's there, and I am a 10 times Microsoft MVP. Before we begin, let's talk a little bit about what Creospark does. Just like Helix, we have three types of buckets here. We've got the modern teamwork bucket, where we specialize in SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, rollouts, apps, records and documents and knowledge management, Project Cortex. The second bucket is really the business apps portion, where we focus on the Power Platform, Power Automate, Power BI, Power Apps. We run special custom trainings like App in a Day and such. So all of the solutions you're seeing here today, we've actually built very similar solutions for many of our clients. And we also have a strategic bucket, which we call our enterprise advisory services, where if anybody needs that 3-year roadmap, modernization, migration planning, all of that. One of our core things at our organization is making sure you love the solution we're going to give you, whether it's via project outcome or via products. So that's where we go into the adoption, change management training. We have some experts there, and we want to make you love the solution we're building for you, with all the underpinnings of the latest and greatest Microsoft services that they've given you underneath, such as Microsoft Graph, Cognitive Services, Security and Compliance, and all the butt stuff. We also have a product company called Cloudspark, where we build apps. So we've got apps built for Microsoft Teams, like a leave request app, or instead of asking to leave the office nowadays, you actually have to ask to be in the office. So we actually have what we call a reserve or hoteling app, where you're booking your time into the office, and there's policies behind the scenes which check to see if your next door neighbor next to you is in the office, because you need to keep that 2-meter space. So we've got those types of apps. So feel free to visit our website, Cloudspark Labs or Creospark, for that type of information. But what are we going to talk about today? Really, this session is not going to be a lot of slides. I actually want to show you an end-to-end demo. And an outcome out of this session is we want you to learn how to use the Microsoft 365 Power Platform to empower teamwork in your organization. We want to show you how the combination of Power Platform data sources such as SharePoint and Teams can help solve that business automation and all the challenges that your organization has. We'll briefly start with describing a scenario and the business outcomes we're going to desire, and then it's going to be fully demos. So by the end of this, you as a power user or an end user could build such a solution. And I'm going to try to do it in 40 minutes that I have left. And the technologies we're going to be using today are, we're going to be using SharePoint Online as our data source. We're going to use Power Automate And to go even further than that, we could use the web version of Power Automate, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to use the mobile app on your phone to develop these types of flows and workflow processes right from your mobile phone. So if you're on the way home from a subway or the GO train and you have a little bit of time on your hand, you can build your own solutions. We'll show you how to tie it into Power Apps and then surface it up into Microsoft Teams. So for anybody who's not familiar with Microsoft Teams, it is our chat-based workspace in Microsoft 365. It has all the capabilities that we're looking for, especially during the pandemic more than ever now. We do all of our work. We use Microsoft Teams as the hub for teamwork. We have chatting with all our colleagues, with all our partners, with all our customers. We have meetings with all those people as well through conference bridges, through one-on-one VoIP calls. We have all of our collaboration happening from our teams. So we set up teams for our projects. We set up teams for our departmental or interdepartmental collaboration or interdepartmental collaboration. We have the flexibility to create apps for our teams, and the underpinnings are that it has the security that your IT admins require behind the scenes, because it's all tied to the Microsoft 365 security and compliance aspects. And then it's very extendable, as you said. So you can see that Microsoft announced that they're having millions and millions, I think over 75 million people on a daily basis now using Microsoft Teams. So that's really the hub for teamwork. Any apps that you're building, you want to make sure there is a team story, because just the amount of time switching back and forth between apps, if you embed them within Microsoft Teams, it's going to save you a lot of time, save your users a lot of time, saving your company money from an ROI perspective, because the time it switches from application to application could evolve to a few minutes. And if you have 50,000 people at your organization, and we're talking about a few minutes going back and forth through the apps, you're talking about a lot of money in savings. So you really need to have a team story going on for all your apps. Where do you start with Microsoft Teams if you want to start developing these types of applications? There's a lot of solution accelerators out there, and some of those include some of the app templates that Microsoft has given you. So those already have the architecture built within them. So if we take a look at some of the app templates here, and I'll click on this, see if we can actually show some of the ones that are there. If you're, for example, an IT company where you need to do scrums, if you want an icebreaker app, so there's really cool apps that are out there that have these app templates. These are a little bit more technical to deploy, but they have all the architecture. So here, this is the attendance is a Power App tab that can be pinned to a team, right? So it's an attendance app, a book a room app, a building access app, very similar to the one we're building, but this is built within the Power Platform. A celebrations app, a corporate communicator if you want to push news to all the teams. So this is an app. Now, if you click on this little link here, the Get in GitHub, you can actually go to that and get all the instructions on the app itself, from a documentation, from a deployment, from an architecture perspective. So these types of apps require some Azure services on the back end, and it guides you through how to install it and everything. So really cool capabilities you have there. Power Platform, that's what we're going to be talking about today. That's where we're using the Power Apps, Power Automate. We're using the SharePoint as a data source for that. Project Oakdale is a brand new capability that Microsoft has given you that is built on top of the CDS. We'll touch on that today as well. And then lastly, if you want to actually get into development and hardcore development, you can always build SharePoint framework apps, and those are more an embedded experience in your Teams interface. Today, we're really here talking about how we can, you guys as power users, as end users, how can you build your own apps? And that's where we're going to be focusing on the Microsoft Power Platform. The Microsoft Power Platform is a low-code platform that is for citizen developers, that is for IT pro developers. Like, and historically, we used to have this one class of user called the developer, but now all the business users, they're actually pretty technical coming out from school and everything like that, and they feel, why do I need to go to my IT team to build apps? I can build my own. I know my business processes best. I don't need to go to IT to develop all these apps and spend thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to build these stuff when I could just build it myself, right? So with some small amount of knowledge that I'm going to example of what I'm showing you here. These are the four main buckets of the Power Platform. So Power BI with the business analytics portion, where you can report and create these powerful dashboards of all your data that you have. Power Apps, which is a low-code app platform where you can quickly connect to a data source and customize your views to be able to act on it. And we're going to actually do an example of that today. Power Automate, where you can automate your business processes, and then this new thing called Power Virtual Agents, where you can configure your own bots and get them to point to your Q&A on your website or whatever it may be. And this is all built with the strong enterprise governance and security that Microsoft has for you within the platform, along with that pro dev extensibility in case there's a certain use case that you can't do without out of the box capabilities. What you need to realize with Power Apps is that, and the Power Platform, every Power App is a Teams app. They're available to be added to any team you want, where all your critical work and collaboration is already happening. So we talked about how during the pandemic, we spend 80% of our time in Teams, whether it's chatting with our internal folks or external folks, or having meetings, or collaborating on documents. Anytime you build a Power App, you can easily surface that up in a team. Though Power App creators can deploy the apps they have created directly in any of their teams, IT admins have the control to distribute those apps by publishing them through the Teams Admin Center. And then all the frontline workers and your users in your organization can access the Power Apps and any flows through Power Automate in your mobile apps as well. And that's what we're going to be showing today from a mobile perspective. I do want to touch upon Project Oakdale, even though this session isn't really focused on Project Oakdale. I'll see if I can show you a quick demo of that. But this is a brand new functionality where, if anybody's familiar with another main bucket of the Power Platform, is the Common Data Service. The Common Data Service is a kind of a paid offering for a kind of entity, tables, and relational structure, which is paid for as a separate licenses for the Power Platform. With Project Oakdale now, Microsoft is embedding that within Microsoft Teams and giving you a free light version of this CDS. And it's really cool. So a lot of the stuff I'm showing today, you could actually build on Project Oakdale itself with the licensing you have. Instead of using SharePoint as a data source, you could use that light version of CDS that's built in Project Oakdale. So we've worked with an insurance company. They came to us with a requirement saying that we need to have our appraisers go on site to car accidents and take pictures. And they have they use their own iPhones or Androids or whatever that it may be, but they want those pictures to automatically be uploaded to their Microsoft 365 environment. So when they take those pictures, they kind of need to review and assess the damages that occurred and review that with their management. And their managers kind of define the fact that, you know what, I need some more discussions on this accident. So let's actually create a forum for that discussion and look at all the other pictures. So the concept here is that we want the appraiser to go to the accident and send the main picture of the accident from their mobile phone. The manager is going to then review the accident picture, and then they're going to decide if that picture is worthy of a further claim discussion. So it could be the fact that they need to upload more pictures so we can take a look at more details of the accident, or collaborate and talk about what happened based on the conversations you've had with the customer or the client. That is where the full team is going to collaborate on the claim and all the pictures. So that's kind of the scenario here. What we're doing for that scenario, we're going to map it to that process flow that we just talked about to the Microsoft 365 technology stack. We're going to start by getting a data source in SharePoint Online. We want to stick to the licensing we have, so we don't want to use any type of connection to SQL Server, the full version of CDS, because that requires, if we were going to have a licensing session for Microsoft, it would be a whole separate session. You could ping me after the fact on that, but we want to stick to SharePoint Online as our data source. The next thing we're going to use is the Power Automate app, as well as Power Apps and Microsoft Teams. So the first step is we are going to create a SharePoint library, which is going to store that information that the appraiser takes from their mobile phone. So we need to create our data source. Then we're going to create the metadata. So things like an accident description, or the license plate, or the vehicle that happened. So the appraiser needs to fill out this information because the manager needs to know what happened and who the accident happened for. Step 2, from the mobile app, we're going to create this Power Automate mobile button. And from the Power Automate mobile app, they're going to take the picture and add the metadata. Step 3 is we're going to create a Power App, which kind of shows all the accidents that have happened across all the appraisers. And so the manager can vet out that and kind of decide if there is a further discussion needed. And lastly, we're going to surface that all up within Microsoft Teams so that the manager and all the appraisers can have conversations on the accident, evaluate the accident, and upload any more photos that we need for the accident. So without further ado, let's actually get into it. So the first thing we need to do is create a data source, as we discussed on the SharePoint sites. I've got a Microsoft team that I've set up called Creo Insurance. And this is where I have conversations with all my managers. This is where I have, and that might be my department at my organization where I'm having it. So I've created this team up called Creo Insurance. We've got a general channel here where mostly everything's going to happen. So all my conversations with my managers, etc., and stuff. So this is just a basic out-of-the-box team that I've created, nothing special. But you notice this Files tab. So we need to create our data source somewhere. And then if you don't know already, when you create a team, you get a SharePoint site that backs it. So where do we want to store this information? It probably makes sense for us to store it in the SharePoint site that this team is backed by. So what we're going to go is click on the Files button, and we will click on the Open in SharePoint button. So when we click on the Open in SharePoint button, it's going to take us to the back-end SharePoint site. Now, we don't want to use the out-of-the-box documents library that's there. We want to actually create a new one because we might have different apps, and this documents is also shared by the Files tab in Teams. So we want to create another document library where we can host this in. So what we're going to do is first create the data source. From here, we're going to add a new document library, and we'll call it, like, why don't we call it Helix Accident Claims. So we'll click on the Create button. This is now we have our data source. So this is where they're going to upload all their photos to the appraiser. But this isn't enough information. You see some of the out-of-the-box stuff, but we want to add some more metadata they need to fill in. So we have the name of the team. You know, if anybody's familiar with SharePoint, you also get a title. So if I were to go and go to the library settings here, I can go and expose that title flag in my form. So if I go to the All Documents view, we'll expose that title field as well. Maybe make it number 3, and we'll press OK here. So if we go back to that view now, we've got a title field. So this is going to be the name of the document that's uploaded. This is going to be the title, and the title could be used as, for example, the customer number. And perhaps another thing we want the appraiser to put is perhaps, let's do a single line of text. How about license plate? Because that's important for them to gather. So we'll hit save there. Another field might be vehicle. So let's go and add vehicle here. Another field here might be accident description. So we'll make this one multiple lines of chat. We'll save that guy. And for now, because this is a demo, you can add as many fields as you want, but let's start with this. And I think that's good enough for our data source. We want to create a mechanism where people can upload to this document library from the mobile app. And now I'm going to switch to Power Automate, the mobile app, to actually show you how easy it is to start using that. So as you can see here, you're actually seeing my mobile phone now. You see here, I've got this Power Automate mobile app, and I got this Power Apps itself. What I want to do is open up this Power Automate mobile app and show you how easy it is to create these Power Automate flows. So first of all, here's the activity of all of our flows and anything that's happened so far, so you can see what's happened. If there's any approval flows, you can add them here. You can browse and look at your prefabricated templates you guys can start with by creating your own flows from. This is very similar to the web app. So when you're actually creating your Power Automate flows, you can either go for the web app, your mobile phone. It's really flexible. This is the buttons, this middle section, which is what we're going to do today. And here's a list of all the flows that I have for this one. But in this one, I actually want to just create a new flow. So I'm going to create from blank. The idea here is that the appraiser is going to go to this mobile app and click on a button, which is going to prompt them to upload the picture as well as the metadata. So the action, the connector we need to actually create is the flow button for mobile. So we're going to click on that flow button for mobile to manually trigger a flow. So we'll click on that guy. And you see it's already created the action for us and the trigger. So we'll give it a name. You see here, it's already created the manually trigger a flow, but you see how we can add an input. We want the appraiser to actually put that information that we're requesting of them, of the metadata that we've configured on the SharePoint library. So the first one would be exactly the same as what we did before. So the first one would be customer number, I think. And it's just a piece of text. We're actually going to ask for license plate is another one. Vehicle, I think, was another one. And then the last one was accident description, I think. The last input we need is actually for them to upload the file, right? So we'll click on the file button and we're pretty much done with that step now. So when the appraiser presses the button, it's going to prompt them for that information. And then we want to take some more action. So the next action we want is to actually upload that file to the SharePoint data source we just created. So we'll click on New Step, press the Add an Action button. We'll filter on SharePoint connector, and we will try to find an action, something like create a file in SharePoint. There we go. So there it goes. And right away there, we've got the create file, and it's asking us for the site address, but hopefully it kind of remembers the fact that I've been using that Creo Insurance site. So it already had it there. We've got the folder path. So if I click on the little folder icon, we can see if we can find that HELUX accident claims library we created. Now, the file name that we want to give it, and it is a JPEG that's uploaded from there. So I think you probably want to give it something very unique, perhaps something like, let's say, the license plate. Now, if you see here at the bottom here, from the manually trigger a flow action, we see all the properties we're collecting there. So we could use some of these. So perhaps something unique would be the license plate, and then maybe a dash, and then how about timestamp would be unique. So we'll put that in. We will hit the dot and then just make sure it's JPEG, right? So there we go. So we're naming the file, and then the file content. The content is being prompted again from the manually trigger a flow. So we'll go find that one. File content, there we go. So that's actually the binary file. And then we're done that step. So at this step of the flow, this is actually now uploaded to the SharePoint library, but we're not done there yet. We want to actually update the metadata once it's been uploaded. So we'll add another action, and then we will find maybe one called update file properties. And at this point, it's going to prompt us for the site, and it's that same site, insurance site, and then the same library name, which is the HELUX accident claims. And then we will give it an ID. So the ID is, we need to tell it what ID we're updating. So the ID we're updating is going to be dynamically created from the create file action. So if I click on that ID text box, it should automatically show me that the item ID from the create file is the one that we need to take action on. Now the title we said is the customer number. So what we're going to do is, again, we're able to get the customer number from what was inputted. Now, same thing with the license plate. So let's actually search for license plate here. The next one is the vehicle. So we'll search on vehicle. The next one is the accident description. So let's do a search on accident description. There we go. So now we've got 3 steps in the flow. So when the button is triggered by the appraiser, they're going to upload the file, add the metadata. Then the system's going to create the file in the library. Then the system's going to update the file metadata that we've talked about. Okay. Okay, great. So let's press the create button. And if the demo gods are with me, it would have been created. Now that we're going to be creating it, we actually want to test it out and make sure that actually works. And I want to prove to you that I'm not all smoke and mirrors, so that you guys can actually see this. So now, if we look here, there should be a new button here under our buttons. And we'll click on that Helix Power Automate button flow. So now the cool thing about this is you can actually pin this to your home screen as well by sharing the link and having a shortcut directly from your iPhone. So they don't have to go to the Power Automate app all the time. They can actually just have this on the home screen of their iPhone or Android and via the Power Automate mobile app. So we'll click on that and let's put some test data here. So customer number, let's give it something, a license plate. So up here in Canada, our license plates kind of look something like this. Let's do a BM, because John has a nice BMW. Let's use that one. Accident from, let's say hit from behind maybe. And then the file content, I could take a picture here directly if I was the appraiser, but for fun, I'm just gonna go to my screenshots that I have, and I've got some pictures of Homer here. There we go, we have all the metadata. Let's upload that one. The cool thing here is that once I've started this flow, I can actually see the activity if I go to the activity. And right here, if I catch it in time, it shows me that each step of the way, see these green check marks? It tells me that I invoked this one and it was successful. Creating a file was successful. and then updating the file properties was successful. It's good to have data when you're building out your Power Apps, because the Power Apps are really cool in that it shows you a live view of the data, not like days where you were kind of building on some sort of dashboard and you're actually working with the live data. From our mobile app, let's just do a quick check to see that these ran successfully, the last one at least. Okay, so good. So that's pretty much the portion of our demo that showed you that we are able to, right from our mobile phones, create these workflows directly from our mobile app. To prove to you that it worked, let's actually go to the library. And you notice I didn't even do anything. It actually refreshed by itself, our library, and we're able to see all the pictures that we did. So here's our file name in the naming format we wanted. Here's our customer number. Here's our license plate. Here's the vehicles that we just added. And the accident description is here too. So right away there, you show that right from our mobile app, we're able to populate that data source, SharePoint document library data source. And to prove that the pictures are there, we'll go to tile view, and here's the pictures we uploaded. So that's kind of the first step of the demo. Let's actually go to the next step. The next step is actually creating the Power App. So from here, what we're going to do is go to make.powerapps.com, or you can go to your app launcher and find your Power Apps view. So remember, what we're going to do is now create a Power App from that SharePoint library data so that our manager can see all the accidents that have happened. So right away when we get to here, it gives you a really nice screen here, and it shows you how to do it as an end user. You don't have to be technical. You're saying, we're going to start from SharePoint. When we start from SharePoint, it's going to prompt us to what library or list we're going to connect to. And that's the cool thing. So here, first we got to connect to a SharePoint site. So right away it shows us, because we've been using this Creo Insurance SharePoint site. And then we just type in the name. And I think this one was HELUX Accident Claims. And we'll hit the connect button. And right away here, the cool thing, what Power Apps does, it's going to give us a canvas view, a few components and screens automatically created for us. And it's going to give us a create view, a listing view, as well as a edit view. So here is our three views here. We've got our browse screen, we've got our detail screen, and our edit screen. We're going to really use these. We're going to use these two right now for this Power App. But you see it automatically populated the data that we had, that we just populated through the mobile app, and that's pointing to the library. So let's do a few little things to this to make this look a little bit nicer. So the first thing I'm going to do is, from this browse screen, is, we'll select this browse screen, and then we'll go to this thing called the browse gallery here. We want to actually show a picture here, so we'll go to this layout here, find one that we like, maybe an image, because we want to show a preview of the image here. So you see how it already had the image. We'll make this one a little bit bigger so that it fits. And you notice when I do the top one, the rest of them actually adjust. And you can learn this during our Power Apps in a Day's training sessions. This one is the customer title, right? But that's not much information there. So we want to give some information there. Customer number, and then ampersand. And then if you know Excel, then you should be able to do this type of stuff. So this is really simple to do. License plate, we want to put, for example, license plate here. Ampersand, and then the last one is vehicle. Okay, and then perhaps we want to add who the appraiser was. So let's actually just copy this vehicle one and paste that, and then drag the one that we just pasted underneath. And instead of pointing to vehicle, let's actually point to the appraiser, because that's an important thing for the manager to see. So this item dot created by, and then perhaps their display name. There we go. So that's a nice view, but we still need to do the image. To get the image, by default, it just shows sample image, but all you got to do is type in this item dot link to item. Theoretically, this should show up. Okay, there we go. But you notice how this is kind of scrunched up here. Let's do a little bit and go to the image position here, right here. And then we will, instead of fit, we'll do fill, so it looks a little bit nicer. Okay, that's good enough. I don't want to go too crazy. We can make this look amazing, and it's really simple using Power Apps, but let's actually just go to the next screen, which is the detail screen. And the cool thing with the Power Apps, you can actually run it by pressing the Alt button, and I can get to that page. So this screen needs a little bit of work. So for example, this one is customer number and items like that. But first, let's go to, let's change this to a different view. We want it perhaps 2 columns to look a little bit nicer. And we want to edit the fields we're showing here. Perhaps what we'll do is, because we don't need this thing called tags, because that's coming from the library, or extracted text. One we might want to show is, let's see here, who the created by is. So let's start with that. And then we'll just drag that one here for now. So as you can see, it's really flexible to edit. And if we wanted to change this guy to customer number. Right, so now we kind of have a nice view, and this is a big text box, could be a big piece of text, so let's make that a little bit bigger. But obviously, if they're going to drill down, the manager's going to drill down into it, they're going to want to see the actual picture. So we want to drag a picture field from here, from the insert, and then media, and then image. And then we will perhaps drag it right here, and let's make it look big here. Again, same as the other thing, we want to kind of make sure it fills in the picture. And in order to get the picture, you actually have to point to the browse gallery and the selected item you're on, and then same thing, link to item. And then theoretically, that'll pop up. So there we go. So now, so this is kind of a view for the manager once they're drilling down on the picture to get all the metadata they want. But we need one more thing. So we need like a little button there for the manager saying that, you know what, if something's wrong, let's actually go and create a claims discussion channel in Teams. So what we'll do is in the Power App, we're going to insert a button here. So we will find the insert button. And notice that it puts the button at the top, but we will drag it right here and maybe it put it at the bottom, make it a little bit bigger so it overlaps. Obviously we want to change the text on it to create a claim discussion channel. When the manager presses that button, we want it to invoke another Power Automate flow that's going to, number one, create a channel in Microsoft Teams with an area they can upload all the other pictures to. So in order to run that, what we're going to do is invoke another flow, and what we're going to do is create what we call a Power Apps button flow. So in order to do that, you just select the button, you go to the action, click on the Power Automate button, because it's all tightly integrated because we're talking about Microsoft 365 services here. We're going to create a new flow, and it's going to take us to the Flow Designer. That Flow Designer, the Power Automate Designer screen, is the same designer screen you guys saw for my Power Automate mobile app. So right away, it showed me the Power Apps button. That's really what we want. And it's going to automatically connect to our services and create one. We'll rename it. We will add a new step. So when they click on that button, remember, we want to act on that team we're in. So we're going to find the Teams connector. And then here, we want to actually do something like perhaps create a channel. So let's create a channel. So there we go. We just do a search on create, and we saw create a channel. But we don't know the display name. What do we call this? We want it to be something unique. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is ask in Power Apps. And then because it's all tightly integrated, you'll see that the Power App is going to have a little entry point when we go back to it. The next step is, once we create that channel, perhaps we want to post a message in that channel. So let's find a message, just do a search on message, post a message right here, action. We'll point to that Creo Insurance team again. Now the channel ID is going to be the channel ID we got from this one, so we'll get that from that channel ID, which is coming from the create a channel action. And then, let's put some text here. This claim might have some complexities. Let's have some further discussions on it. Please upload the rest of the accident photos to the Files tab in this channel. Once it's posted a message, we probably want to do one more thing. Why don't we send a message to the manager or somebody that we've done it? So what we're going to do is go to Microsoft Teams, and just like our messages, let's find this thing called the flow bot. So post a message as the flow bot to the user, for example. and just letting them know that, you know what, there's something that they need to look at here. So in this case, it would be, I'll just post it to myself for now, and then, right? So why don't we post a message there? So that's kind of the end of that flow. We'll hit the save button. Hopefully, demo gods are with me and it's saved correctly. But let's go back to our Power App screen. And you notice here, it should show up in a second here. Come on, there it goes. It showed up that we just created one. We're gonna click on that new flow and it's going to attach it to this button. And once it attaches it to that button, it's going to prompt us for some information. There we go. See at the top here, it's now saying it's gonna run this flow and it's prompting us for some information. If I hit the back button here, it's going to say, see how it's asking us to give us the display name of the channel. So now the display name of the channel might be something, we want it to be something unique. So let's go and just like browse gallery 1.selected. How about something unique is the ID of the item? That might be something unique. And then we might want to append it with perhaps the customer number. So let's go and browse gallery 1.selected perhaps, and let's see if we can get the customer number, which is stored in the title. So that's what we'll name the channel. Okay, so now we're actually done with this Power App. So let's go and save it. So we'll click on the file. We'll give it a name, Helix Car Accident Power App. We'll click on the save button and we will save it to the cloud. We'll hit the save button and now the Power App's been created. Okay, so now that we've created the Power Apps, our next step is we want to surface it up within Microsoft Teams. So once that Power App is created with the flow behind the scenes, we actually now go back to our general channel. We're going to go to and add a tab. The cool thing about the Power Apps is right when you add it as a tab, it shows up. If you just do a quick search on Power Apps here, it's one of the preset apps that you can select. So you just select Power Apps here. It should show up the Power App we just created here. Here it is. Check that, save this guy. Now our app, again, during the pandemic, we want all of our apps where we're working all the time. If I'm collaborating in this channel with my files, with my posts, with my managers, I want it to show up here. And you notice that the Power App we just created is right here. So if I'm my manager and I say, you know what, the appraiser went out there and I see Homer involved. So you know what, all the rest of these look good, but since Homer was involved, let's actually go deep into it. So let's look at the item details here. Yeah, for sure. Let's actually have a more discussion on it. I'll click on this create a claim discussion. And if you notice here, the demo gods are with me, a new hidden channel showed up here, right? So a new channel was created, just like we said. And I got a message here. So it tells us the flow worked well. So first, it said it created a new channel with exactly the text we wanted. The claim might have complexities. Please upload to the photo channels. It has a file section for me to upload more of the files that I wanted. And I got a message saying that, you know, I now have a new claims channel has been created. So that kind of takes you through an end-to-end view to be able to automate your business process flows. So what we did here, just to close it off, followed this process flow in order to be able to send a picture from my mobile phone. The manager reviewed the picture in Teams. The manager decided if it was worthy of a further claim discussion, and the full team was able to collaborate on it. We use SharePoint Online as a data source. We use Power Automate in two ways to create the initial flow for the appraiser to upload the photo with the metadata. We created a Power App where we can surface that information for our manager, and then we showed that Power App within Microsoft Teams, and it did another flow where the manager was able to invoke a new channel to upload all the further pictures of.
I think that's it for today. Once again, thank you, Rez. Thanks, John. And thanks, everyone, for attending.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.